Welcome to the latest episode of Blood Money. Today we have a very special guest, Sarah Steadman. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great to have you on the Blood Money podcast. So Sarah is a whistleblower in the medical industrial complex who's really been part of the fight for freedom for a real long time now, behind the scenes and now in front of the scenes. And so we're going to catch up with her in terms of her work whistleblowing and what she has observed happening within our medical industrial complex. So Sarah, could you give us a brief introduction on yourself and lead us into some of your findings?
Okay, so I have 25 years of healthcare background. I worked from bedside all the way up to case management, where I was fired from a government facility here in San Diego. And then I just recently got another position where I work the front line for a couple family practice, and I'm seeing a complete disaster with these vaccines.
Could you explain what you mean by that in terms of the disasters you're seeing with the vaccines?
So these vaccines are not being recognized as injuries. All these patients that come in with sinus infections every week, and then they're being referred out to specialists, and the specialists are kind of stumped. They don't know, what the causes are, or lots of shoulder pains, random falling down, breaking bones.
Wow.
I've seen so much STDs I've never seen before in my life.
So STDs, that's an interesting topic there. Explain to me why the STDs could potentially be attributed to a COVID vaccine injury.
Okay, so I did a lot of the research myself, and of course got into speaking with a lot of the virologists and biologists and whatnot to see what exactly the ingredients that were in these vaccines. And there's a lot of HIV and herpes that were in them. And so
you're saying the actual vaccine was giving people HIV and herpes?
Correct.
Wow.
A new report I just read is that there is gonorrhea going around, and it's antibiotic resistant. Now, I am seeing on the front line a lot of antibiotic resistant viruses, or not so much viruses, but diseases that usually, antibiotics would help the patient, like an infection or a wound infection or sinus infection, and antibiotics is not helping them.
Okay, and this is people that are specifically have been vaxxed?
Yes.
It's not happening in the unvaxxed?
No, so that's the first thing that I look at is their vax status when I'm in the charts, and all these patients are vaccinated.
Wow. So, all right, tell me a little bit more about what you're witnessing.
I'm witnessing lots of strokes, heart attacks, UTIs, infections in the bladder. Just a lot of just junk. That's all I have to say is junk.
And it's so you've worked in the medical industrial complex prior to COVID. How does, when you A/B today with, prior to 2020, what is the main differences you're seeing?
Prior to 2020, I worked inpatient. So we would see the worst of the worst. But we wouldn't see anything like we're seeing now. These vaccines are not safe, not effective. They're This is what I like to say is that they're money-making, disease-brewing, lethal injections. They were made to kill, and that's exactly what they're doing.
All right. So let me ask you, by the way, we've done so many blood money episodes with so many frontline doctors that I do not disagree with what you're saying. I think most doctors that are honest doctors that are not following the narrative and have done their own research say that, this could be a calamity of epic proportions, like 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion people could perish from the 6 billion that took this vaccine. For those that are still not buying that are still buying the official narrative, what is it that you are witnessing? What is it that you are seeing that convinces you that, and why is it that you are saying these things, but other individuals working in the medical industrial complex are not? Two questions.
A lot of it I think is denial because a lot of healthcare professionals are vaccinated themselves. Mm-hmm. And to be able to recognize that, they are thinking, oh my gosh, could this happen to me? So they don't want to be in reality of that. Another thing is money. Mm-hmm. They're being tipped off. They're being paid to shut their mouth.
I mean, okay, but how does that reconcile itself with, we're supposed to think of medical professionals as, honorable, do no harm. I mean, money, hey, anytime could offer you money to, somebody could offer you money to murder somebody right now. You know what I mean? It's like the whole point of it is that we do not accept money to murder people, especially people that are supposed to not do any harm to others.
I understand, but physicians will do anything to keep up the narrative. A lot of them are just, the physicians that I work for, they don't have time to sit there and analyze everything. They're on a quota, they need to make money, and that's all they care about. So they're feeding right into this narrative. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. They don't have common sense. I don't know.
Wow. Okay. So tell me, I mean, the way prior to the interview, the way it was sounding to me, it was that there are many ways to essentially kill somebody using the hospital system. I mean, what are the things that you've witnessed and are willing to whistleblow about in terms of the hospital killing fields?
Okay, so a couple things during COVID. So usually prior to COVID, we were, patients had advocates at the bedside, correct? So they had somebody that was constantly there asking questions, and we didn't have that during COVID. Patients were left to kind of hang from themselves at the mercy of, they thought they could trust the healthcare industry, but we, not me per se, because I didn't work inpatient, but they were given kill orders, protocols, and it was protocols at nighttime to kill these patients. Remdesivir.
So sorry, I got to pause you there. So you're talking about nurses and doctors that are getting kill orders?
Yes.
Okay. So is the doctor or nurse aware that what they're asking to do is basically a kill order?
So it wasn't brought out as, kill orders, but it was, this is the hospital protocol and this is what you need to follow.
And are most doctors aware that this equals killing people?
No.
They don't know that remdesivir kills people?
Nope. At the time, they did not.
But this is not ongoing. This was earlier on in the COVID, scamdemic.
Yeah. So wow. This was ongoing. Now at nighttime too, I spoke with a physician. He was a hospitalist, and all his patients were dying at night. So he started rounding at nighttime, and he was approached and stated that the nursing supervisors gave orders to take patients off of oxygen, that were on auction, lower their vents,
Mm-hmm.
and give them high doses of remdesivir.
Wow.
Fentanyl, because they were, on vents and that kind of stuff.
So remdesivir, we know from prior episodes of Blood Money that it kills at least 50% of the people that take it, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then you're talking about fentanyl. Fentanyl is also pretty much a lot of people overdose off of fentanyl. So how is that supposed to be good for a patient, giving them remdesivir and fentanyl?
So it's not good for the patient. However, fentanyl sedates them, and it also preserves their organs. So when they do
Wow.
kill these patients, they are harvesting organs.
So I got to go a little wider here because the fentanyl crisis has been something pretty serious. Before there was crystal meth, opiates, or what is it called, OxyContin has been a very popular drug. I think 70 to 100,000 people die every year from opiate overdoses, and I think OxyContin in particular, right? So now you're telling me that fentanyl preserves the organs, and I don't want to be too much of a conspiracy theorist, but that's very convenient for people that want to organ harvest, because if you have 70 to 100,000 individuals perishing because of fentanyl overdoses, or whatever that number is, that would seem like that's going to actually pay off for the people that make money from organ harvesting.
Yeah. So, sorry, what was the question? Sorry.
No. It just seems very convenient that fentanyl preserves the organs and also is something that overdoses people at such a highly regular fashion, where you have, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's in the tens of thousands per year perish from fentanyl overdoses. So I was just making the point that that's really convenient for people that want to make money off of organ harvesting, is that you have essentially like a mini genocide happening via fentanyl, and it preserves the organ. So, organ harvesting folks make a lot of money.
Yes. So the government makes a lot of money off of organs.
Wow. That's pretty
because
crazy.
It's all based off of insurance as well.
Mm.
So insurance was incentivizing insurance payouts, and then also government.
Wow. All right. So you're telling me also about the faulty IV overdosing patients. Tell me about what's going on there. And that seems to be a more recent discovery. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the IV company is called Alaris.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the medications like a PCA, it's very low doses, would go into a patient, or if you're having surgery, it's usually very low doses of medication would be delivered. However, it was convenient that there was a recall for them in 2020, that the buttons would get stuck. And so the patients were overdosing on whatever medication they were given through this IV, which a lot of them were remdesivir or fentanyl or, morphine. Wow. So, but these pumps are still being used today.
And how often do people perish because of these faulty IVs?
There's been a lot of deaths.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily work inpatient right now, but outside, I see it a lot. I recently just had a friend's husband, healthy, unvaccinated, went in for a simple outpatient procedure and died that night. And I said, you need to ask questions.
You died from what?
The doctors are stunned. They don't know. I said, well, you need to check to make sure that he wasn't overdosed.
Whoa. So somebody goes in a hospital and dies within the hospital, and there's not a major investigation that a healthy young person died in a hospital?
Yep. It happens.
I mean, are you convinced that these hospitals are basically being used as killing fields?
Yes, I called them gas chambers.
I mean, could you, for the viewer that is skeptical, could you just, and I know you've talked about some of this already, but go over the list of ways that this happens?
List of ways that happens.
Hmm.
Well, during COVID, nobody could be at bedside. It's easy.
Hmm.
A lot of patients, they trust their providers. I wouldn't trust any of them.
Hmm.
I I don't know what else to say. To me, it's you fight for your loved one, right? I don't care who
Hmm.
it is. You just fight for them, and you stay there.
Wow. 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 So, all right. So, being a whistleblower, you're telling me that, and you started pretty early on. Take us through when you started exposing what's going on, and tell us about the price you've had to pay for that.
I started exposing in 2020. At first, I didn't really know what was happening, and so I took that dive, and I did some investigation, and I got into some groups, and then I saw, oh my goodness, like we're at war, like healthcare's been hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
So I was started whistleblowing anonymously. I used a fake name all through 2020. And then in 2021, I started coming out a little bit with, shedding and what I've been seeing there. I did go on a couple different platforms like Stu Peters and Children's Health Defense,
Mm-hmm.
and expose some pretty dark stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then just recently, well, last year, at the end of last year, I threw some stuff against my employer at the time,
Mm-hmm.
which is a state facility. I did some common law and whistleblew that COVID was a scam, and the real reason behind it and the vaccine rollout.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was fired for that. Um, but yeah.
And you've been, I mean, you've been attacked. They tried to make your life very difficult, but you were telling me that you've used common law processes to individually sue people as opposed to sue organizations, which I found very interesting because having spoken to Pastor Arthur's son, after Pastor Arthur Pawlowski from Canada, his son Nathaniel was getting kicked out of his school, and he threatened the dean that he was going to sue him. And then dean thought he was suing the school, and he said, "Go right ahead." And then Nathaniel clarified. He said, "No, I'm going to be suing you personally." And then all of a sudden, they let him back in the school without having to take a vaccine shot, which, prior to that, they were saying, "We're going to kick you out if you don't take this vaccine shot." So you were telling me about this process of suing individuals. Tell me about what situations you've been confronted with and how you use this process.
So when I was still working, I was frustrated because I knew that, I'm up against the government, right? And it's just me by myself. So someone approached me and said, "Hey, I think I might have something that works for you." So I said, "Oh, okay, I'm all in."
Mm-hmm.
And it's called a condition of acceptance. And what it is I'll accept taking this vaccine for X amount of dollars, and if you can meet all these conditions. And my conditions were harsh. It was admit COVID was a scam, you're a domestic terrorist,
Uh-huh.
you're murdering people. I had to make it so it was really, really harsh because I wasn't going to
Mm-hmm.
take that vaccine. And instead of doing it as a facility, I went individually, and I started off with my lead
Mm-hmm.
and then my supervisor, my manager, my director, and I went all the way up to the CEO. And there was about 9 people. And at first, they didn't know what it is because it's common law. Like, they don't know.
Yeah.
But in that packet, it says you will not retaliate against me or my family.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get attorneys involved, I will bar grieve them on a federal level. And
What does that mean?
bar grieving is filing a complaint and actually taking their license away so they can't practice law.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing happened, and then I threw another bomb. I asked them for their W-9s, and a W-9 is asking them for like their social, how they file taxes. And then that's when they started like harassing me. They cut my hours, and then they held my paycheck, which is a federal crime. So then I got the EEOC involved, which is a federal investigator for employment. And my appointment with them wasn't until like January the following year. So I had to wait. This was like September of last year. And then my facility decided that, she has work performance issues. They're looking at just getting me out of there. I never been written up, so I pulled my employee file and there was nothing in there. So I knew that,
they're just bullying you.
There wouldn't be any bullshit, at the other end. So once they fired me, I went into an investigation, and then they fired me like 2 months later. And then I did W-4s on them, and I got the IRS involved. And so the IRS did their investigation, and then come January of this year, I believe, I had that EOC investigator interview, and they told me that I had a right to sue them because I whistleblew. They retaliated against me. This is harassment. It's fraud. And then I pulled identity theft. I did the process and did identity theft. And the reason why I did identity theft was because they're going to use my name to file taxes.
Wait, so you're accusing them of identity theft?
Correct. Because since I'm fired, they can't use my name. And I don't give them permission. So that's identity theft.
Wow.
I pulled identity theft, and I just got a letter recently from the IRS stating that their investigation with all 10 of those employees. And then next I will throw some liens down.
Liens. Tell us about that process.
This process is very complex, but basically it's a lien that they are in violation of the initial contract that I submitted, which is the conditional of acceptance. That was for $200 million. And I file liens within the corrupted court system, and the individuals, if they can't pay that, then all of their assets are seized.
Wow. And you could use a corrupted court system to get to that.
Correct.
To get the assets seized.
Correct. Wow. And then a lien will be on their credit report and on a background check for 5 years. They have to pay it, or everything will be seized, and they can't have access to anything that they own.
And that's $200 million because they basically violated your conditional acceptance.
Correct.
So essentially you said, look, I'll take it. You got to accept all this stuff. Give me $200 million. Instead of doing that, they tried to create a false narrative to get you fired. They eventually fired you, saying that you had behavioral issues, but your files showed that you never had such behavioral issues prior to that. And then you start going after them personally, basically.
Yes.
Wow. That's the only way to do it, right? That's the only effective way to do it, is to take these people on. And this is something that we constantly hear, for those that are watching the Blood Money podcast. We've had episodes with Catherine Hine, Jennifer Goodwin, really important episodes to check out, because it talks about these kind of approaches where you go after those individuals on an individual level, and then you see how the tyranny goes away real quick when you do that, and like you said, like they could end up owing you ungodly amounts of money for violating your rights.
Correct.
Wow. Amazing. So, all right, let me ask you about, like, In terms of where this is all going at this point, do you think these individuals are actually going to be held accountable? Is it really more about doing things like you're doing in terms of individually going after these individuals in order to actually have we the people hold them accountable? I mean, what does the future hold?
I believe that we as people need to hold these people accountable. And I will go after every single one of them.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't make you have any friends, obviously, somewhere like San Diego. I mean,
I don't have any friends. And in fact, I'm super hated here in this county. But
really? Wow.
I don't really care.
Yeah. I mean, is that something that like you're hated because you went against the narrative, you pissed off a lot of people because you're calling a spade a spade?
Pretty much, but I'm pretty straightforward. I call it how I see it, and I'm not afraid to back down. So,
I mean, people you work with, is there anybody else like you? Is there anybody else that's turning the corner at this point, or are they still living in some kind of fictitious land?
Actually, the people that I work for, they're very supportive of me. I was able to talk to one of the nurse practitioners that can see through the narrative, which is nice. It's the other two doctors, husband and wife, that are just completely drank the Kool-Aid. Some of my colleagues, they're pretty tough like I am. Unfortunately, they did get that vaccine. So.
Oh, wow, crazy. Sarah, is there anything that we didn't talk about that in closing you'd like to mention? Especially, is there any other things that you've noticed as a whistleblower or anything we didn't touch upon?
I kind of want to touch in on the relationship of the nursing homes, because a lot of people talk about the nursing homes, but they don't know the relationship. And being in case management and being a case manager, I do know that relationship. And I think it's very important that we talk about it. So,
sure. Yeah, tell us about it.
So in the hospital, the physicians, the hospitalists, the ones that admit and discharge patients, are the same doctors in the nursing homes. They're the medical directors. So when you say that, there was a lot of talk that the nursing homes here in California had a lot of, COVID and COVID deaths, is because those corrupted physicians were discharging and exposing all the patients in their own facilities for more money.
Wow. And what kind of funds were they getting? How were they getting paid? I mean, literally to lead people into essentially a death camp, more or less, right?
Yeah, so they were getting paid by insurance, and they are also getting paid by the government.
Wow. And was this happening on a wholesale level? How big was this?
It's big, because we have a lot of doctors that fall under the governor as well. Remember that Governor Newsom had some French Laundry dinner party during COVID, right? Some of those were actually physicians that own a hospitalist contracting company. And so that's why.
So those are the individuals at the French Laundry with Newsom, hanging out without masks, dictating essentially how people are murdered, more or less.
Pretty much.
Wow. I mean, is there a comeuppance for these people? Is there crimes for humanity trials? I mean, it sounds like a Nazi-esque Hitlerian nightmare.
I think a lot of people are going to be held accountable. I think within time we'll see that. I'm hoping that we have more people that will stand up on higher level, that are higher than me, higher levels, and start taking people out for accountability. Sorry.
Almost lost you.
I know here in San Diego we have pretty cheap bad sheriffs. So but we do have some really strong fighters. So
yeah. Wow.
I just have to be hopeful,
Yeah. Is there anything else that we should mention?
I I don't know. I think maybe I can come back another
Yeah.
time, maybe, and do it. So
Yeah, would love that. Would love that. I mean, this is just insane information, and like truly death camps, and we hope that there are real Nuremberg like trials for these people that especially, I mean, just mind-blowing hearing about that whole French Laundry story, like where he's hanging out, Newsom is hanging out with a bunch of doctors, no masks. Obviously they're living in a completely different reality while trying to force, we the people into this tyranny and oppression. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable, And I can't even believe that Newsom could walk around without, feeling like, hey, ego and arrogance and all that, and not feeling like he's absolutely a criminal.
yeah, so we have a lot of conflict of interest that happens within the healthcare system. So we we really need to focus on that as well. I wanted to touch bases on one last thing
Mm-hmm.
is that since at my last employer, the one that I got fired from, I worked in cardiology, and a lot of the transplant patients, the recipients, had to come within our department and be cleared in order to get a transplant.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a physician that actually sent me a text message that one of her patients got a heart in 3 weeks. And that's like nearly impossible because there's so many procedures that you have to get done prior to. And to get a heart in 3 weeks is insane. Because usually it's a 6+ year waiting list.
Wow. So what happened there?
And they ended up, a patient was dying in the ICU, and they were able to get a heart.
But why? I mean, why in 3 weeks? How were they able to circumvent the system?
I guess connections. Like I said,
Wow.
it's very corrupted inside.
Special
And
privileges for people that are willing to probably pay a lot more money.
yes, and just so you know, and your viewers know, that heart had to still be pumping before it can be transferred over. So that was it. It's a murder, as far as I'm concerned.
A murder. So, oh wow. So, like,
Mhm.
just to just to facilitate some powerful person, they had to off somebody else.
Correct.
Wow. Makes you never want to go to a hospital ever again.
I would say pull out if you can. I mean, here in San Diego, all the hospitals are getting prepared with their tents outside and that kind of stuff. If you have to go into a facility for whatever reason, I'm gonna warn you now. You videotape everything and you don't leave the side of your loved one.
I mean, a question that came up with one of our partners was that what do you do if you need blood and you want unvaccinated blood? Are new systems being set up for people like us that have no interest in, sharing or being pumped with any blood that has vaccines in it?
So I do know that there are there's a doctor and her husband that are building a parallel system, a hospital for
Mm-hmm.
unvaccinated. That was a concern for me personally, with a loved one of mine who had to have surgery, and I was able to find another match,
Mm-hmm.
and we would just do it like old school, where we had the donor on the side of the bed and the patient, and we would just, instead of the filtering, we just donate that way.
Oh wow. Amazing. Sarah, this has been an awesome episode. Thank you so much for the incredible work you're doing and being brave enough to actually whistleblow on these scumbags and the carnage that they're causing. We'd love to have you back on our shows for updates, as I'm sure you're going to be learning a lot more in the days and months to come. So thank you so much for showing up to Blood Money Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And for the viewers out there, thank you for joining us for this episode. Please make sure you consider donating to americahappens.com by clicking on our support tab, because without the support of good viewers like you, we cannot have this information coming out to people. And that's what we do. 150 something episodes of Blood Money. Also, make sure you check out our Mindy Robinson show, Conspiracy Truths. Our AHN News Live every Tuesdays and Thursdays with real independent journalists headed by Corinne Clifford. Tuesdays, Thursdays, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Also, daily devotions, our morning prayer series, every Monday to Friday with LW. Start your morning with prayer. That's the right way to start your morning. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Blood Money. I will see you on the next episode. Take care. Truth in media is not free. If the corrupt corporations run the media, then all we get is a pile of lies. So please support truth in the media by donating to americahappens.com by simply going to americahappens.com, clicking on the support tab, and entering a generous donation. Thank you so much.
Check out the America Happens Network, because Fox sucks now.